not quite enough liveliness. Hopefully, we'll get a little livelier through the presentation here. I want to make this interactive as I move forward. Anyone heard about cloud?
Yeah.
Come on. You've been sleeping under a rock? That's probably the most overused term in the industry right now, right? Everything's cloud. In fact, there may be even a toaster sold at Target that's a cloud toaster now. So fundamentally, what we've seen in the marketplace really is a significant change. Just by way of background, I actually started a cloud storage company back in 2007. For those of you who've seen me before, I would say when I raised money for that company, they told me my head was in the clouds. And again, I competed against Amazon, a lot of learnings, a lot of fun. But fundamentally, what's changed since the 99, 2000 time frame is really multi-tenancy, virtualization. But just as important, the business mindset has changed, right? We've always been searching for how we drive more efficiency, more agility, more speed. And now, certainly with, does anyone have an iPhone? You can raise your hand. Or an iPad. How many apps do you have on there? Right, if you really think about it, we've seen such a significant change in rapid deployment and development. So can we really wait now for a server to be provisioned in 6 months, right? Can we wait for storage, my friends from eBay, right? Can we wait for storage to be set up, provisioned, and then distributed out to the developers? The answer is no, right? We need it now. We need to develop that latest, greatest iPhone app, get it into the market, right? We need to drive more efficiency, more cost out of the system. We need to be more responsive to the business. And ask the question, anyone actually heard of the cloud? Because it's pretty funny when I talk to different people inside an organization. Depending on what area you've come from, different perspective on cloud. CFOs, if you look at all the magazines out there, it's about cost savings, right? I would argue you don't want to necessarily look at cloud just from a cost savings standpoint. Because if you look at it from a business perspective, line of businesses, it's about speed. Can I beat my competitor? Can I get new innovation into the market? Can I drive more revenue? And the CIO is actually, for the first time, as I like to say, really under a lot of pressure from what's called shadow IT. So the businesses that are going out external to the environment, going to Amazon, going to Salesforce, signing up for these new business processes. In turn, they want to drive that speed and agility. And so what do we have from an IT perspective the opportunity to do? We have the opportunity to really close the gap that we are seeing now between business use of cloud and IT use of cloud, right? We've seen many studies out there, but one study really comes to the forefront. Business is outpacing use in the cloud of IT about 2.5x, or 2.5 times. And it comes down again to that speed, that agility. One of our customers, United Healthcare, they wanted to actually create a new vertical cloud. 3,000 developers, get more speed, more innovation. They initially went outside of IT to begin to do that. Now they recognized that in doing so, there was a lot of challenges as well. Right, and this is our opportunity, I think, working together from a customer, vendor, partner relationship standpoint to really make IT that business responsive machine to drive cloud and really become an internal service provider. And what are those challenges that we see that need to be closed by IT to really, I think, set yourself above and beyond what Amazon can provide? Really set the business value, business context, enterprise-grade context to deliver cloud services as a service provider to your internal constituents. So those key challenges that we still see from a cloud standpoint, security, probably the number one thing I hear over and over again. Now, I'd argue security is a multifaceted statement. You also have to peel it back. You have to look at the people and the process side of security just as much as the technology. And in fact, what I've seen more often than not is that people process side of the equation that actually holds up deployment of cloud more so than the technology itself. As I said, I started that cloud storage company, and I used to make the argument it was safer to put data in my cloud because I'd actually give you the encryption keys, and I would encrypt it and fly it at rest. It was safer to put it in there than put it on tape and ship it off-site on some truck, some human process intervention. So technology aside, people process is very important. We as a kind of an industry have to keep looking at that for how do we advance and how do we really begin to set the stage for how do we drive a cohesive security strategy that includes the people process side of the equation. Second, availability. Is it going to be there when I need it? Performance. What about my database applications? Right? Can I actually run in a public cloud, or maybe I have to do it in a private cloud. Network performance. Anyone try to put in a gigabyte of data over the internet? It's painful, right? He's laughing. Right? It's actually very painful if you look at it. I used to move terabytes of data. And so I highlight that because it's going to come down to choice when you look at cloud. Right? And that leads me to the final barrier. And that's what I call the Hotel California problem. Any Eagles fans? Right? If you check in, can you check out? Right? If I put my data into a cloud, do I as a vendor hold it captive? So one thing I would argue from a cloud standpoint, open standards matter. Can you get in? Can you get out? Can you as a customer maintain price control? Right? That is an important aspect. So looking at that from a kind of a challenge standpoint, and how do we drive IT to become hero status? How do we close that gap between business and IT? Fundamentally, what we believe is really going to be centered around hybrid cloud. Right? It's not a public cloud, it's not a private cloud, or what we call a managed cloud, really extending your private cloud in a hosting environment. It's not one or the other, it's all the above. In fact, what I would say, looking from a cloud strategy standpoint, you need to look at what does it make sense for your applications? Right? If I have high security, high compliance needs, and maybe I have scale, I know we have some large customers in the room, I could actually make the argument it's cheaper to do a cloud internally than to go out into an Amazon environment. In fact, I can make that regularly. Zynga is a customer of ours, very much does the same thing. They moved everything off Amazon internally. Right? But that is one choice from a cloud context, from a private cloud. But it also may be I need to use public cloud for speed. Maybe I can't wait to get some of the infrastructure built up. So the key thing here is looking at both. And how do I incorporate that into the overall strategy? And really fundamentally, it's going to be based off the application. It's going to be based on the application and the business need. And the service level agreement, I want to wrap it around that. And so we kind of see a pathway. I think you've seen this in the industry, what we call the journey to the cloud, or pathway to the cloud. You know, fundamentally, I'd say most customers are still in the traditional IT standpoint and beginning to separate out that monolithic stack, right? I used to put a database application and on top of this particular server and this network and this storage, and I would just run it in a monolithic stack type or silo fashion. Now with cloud and virtualization kind of as a stepway to cloud, we've begun to separate those layers, driven more efficiency. Again, I would say most customers are in the 20-30% range of virtualization, still well on that way down that journey. VMware is a big partner of ours. I used to work there, big fan. But virtualization in and of itself is not cloud, right? Cloud is about automation, and it's about self-service. Can I, as a user, go request simple things such as a cell phone, and it doesn't touch any human? Or I, as a developer, can I go request a compute instance with this amount of memory, this amount of storage, and it automatically is provisioned and delivered? Right? That's what cloud is. And so what we're seeing now is a migration or a pathway or a movement down this journey to cloud. We're seeing a separation in stack, but still it's fairly isolated. I'm using public cloud, or I'm beginning to use a private cloud and test dev, right? Or I'm using Salesforce for sales productivity, or I'm using Workday. But if you really look at it, most of those things are separate and independent from one another. I don't necessarily have single sign-on across all that. I don't have a common policy. I don't have a common orchestration framework that's driving all those cloud components. And that's fundamentally is what's required from our, what we believe from our perspective, is that common orchestration and provisioning layer, such that I can now provision based off of service level agreement to the application, the private cloud, the managed cloud, or a public cloud. Again, it doesn't matter. It's based off that SLA and based off that application. So we made a really exciting announcement last week called HP Converge Cloud. And why do I say exciting? Obviously you've seen a lot of announcements in the cloud space. But fundamentally, for the first time, we unveiled an architecture that really eliminates, do I have to choose private, public, or virtual private? Again, for the first time, you can now choose based off application and service level agreement. And that in turn will dictate running on private, virtual, private, or public. And so what we announced, and I'll go through this in a little bit further detail, we obviously already have our private cloud called Cloud System. It's kind of a turnkey cloud, get up and running in a matter of days. We have our virtual private, what we call our managed hosting cloud, which is enterprise cloud services compute. But we also announced that we've now moved into the public beta side with our HP public cloud. Right? So we felt it was important to offer a choice vis-a-vis Amazon. And we've done some very unique things inside the public cloud. We're using OpenStack. Any OpenStack fans in here? Right? So a lot of goodness happening in OpenStack around community. I'm sure, I'll almost bet my job here that everyone's using Linux in some form or fashion. We're seeing the same thing occur in the OpenStack realm, around a cloud stack. Red Hat, Red Hat, AT&T, Dell, HP, got behind this initiative. We're using that as a basis for our public cloud. And I highlight that because now what we're really beginning to architect is the ability to build a workload. Let's say again, I need to build that iPhone app or that Android app. Do it very quickly. Or I need to do a web app. Do it very quickly and do some scale out. I can build that in the public cloud. Now based off my security and compliance, my business needs to now dictate I got lower cost, right? Interesting enough, now I may move that same workload without changing or rewriting the application. I can move that same workload from the public cloud to that managed hosting environment to the private cloud. It's going to be based off your choice and your business needs and your SLA that you're driving. So kind of what makes up this Converge Cloud portfolio. As I just noted, cloud system is kind of our anchor tenant. It really is a foundation for building the private cloud. It is a turnkey environment that provides not only infrastructure as a service internally, but also platform as a service and software as a service. It provides full application lifecycle management out of the box. We're seeing significant growth. We doubled quarter over quarter here. And worldwide, again, we're seeing very strong growth overall. But we've married cloud system together with, again, what I call the managed private cloud. And this is nothing different than extending your firewall out to a shared services environment. And unlike going to an Amazon from a public cloud standpoint, I give you a very detailed SLA, point-in-time recovery objective, right? You can put your VLAN services or extend VLAN services directly into this environment. I can have physical or virtual. I can actually specify down to the box level where data lives, so you have chain of custody. But it does take on shared services approach. And then finally, as I mentioned, we have the public cloud. A lot of exciting things occurring there, not just at the infrastructure level, but we're also going to be introducing big data services or data services itself. NoSQL, MySQL, or NoSQL, SQL, structured and unstructured data services. Right, so we can help you rapidly build applications. The key thing that ties these three things together is our common orchestration and provisioning software. We have a lot of heritage here. Anyone heard of Opsware? Right, we bought a company called Opsware. It used to be LoudCloud. Actually, give Mark Andreessen some credit. He called it LoudCloud back in 99, 2000. Talk about a visionary, well ahead of its time from a cloud perspective. But we've taken that portfolio and brought that together as kind of our common architecture or glue that's driving the ability to provision applications based off SLA across these three methods of cloud. So obviously, this can all be, great talk, but where does it come? Where's the rubber meet the road? Great example is DreamWorks, big customer of ours. I'm sure anyone's seen Shrek 3? A couple of you? Right, so these guys are famous for Shrek and those movies. Just like with any company out there, they wanted more speed, more efficiency of getting movies out to market. Really what they wanted to do when they're producing movies, I need to have the lighting and the director and the production people and the actor sitting real time looking at scenes that are created. Now that presents a challenge. It's high speed, high compute rendering challenge. Right before, do 2 or 3 movies a year, build up capacity, pretty costly, do the rendering internally. Lo and behold, they shot some more scenes. I don't have enough capacity. I got to go provision it, buy it, provision it, bring it in. Take some time to actually move those scenes back to the director and the actor, so they're not really seeing in real time. So we worked together with them on a converged cloud solution where they actually use a hybrid approach. Now they're able to burst out into basically a common rendering farm that we're going to open up to other Hollywood providers, where they can take advantage of a very specialized workload, again, high compute, high memory, do the rendering in real time, bring that back so they can actually have the actor, the director, the lighting people look at this real time, and then produce movies faster. Net, what does that mean? I get more movies out to market, and I save cost. Again, a great example of what Converged Cloud can provide. So how do we move down this pathway? We kind of look at cloud as multiple entry points, right? You can do it in a step-by-step process or a stepwise fashion or an accelerated fashion. Stepwise is really looking at the building blocks. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit around what we call converged infrastructure. Right? You can take storage and networking and compute and build this as kind of a base foundation. Or you can look at it from an accelerated standpoint with cloud system, more of this turnkey approach. So let's spend a few moments on kind of these pretty significant building blocks. We made a major announcement a couple months ago around our new class of servers. Pretty revolutionary design around what we call Gen 8. This was redesigned from the ground up. Tim Golden from the Golden Ticket will actually talk about this in much greater detail. But it's pretty phenomenal, the stats around Gen 8. 917 patents. And you got to ask Tim why they're not 918 right now. 300 million in investment. And for the first time, you actually have autonomic or self-healing servers. Or these literally called, they do the ET phone home without you touching it. So they're diagnosing problems in real time and remediating those problems in real time. Significant performance advantages. And the most important thing I would throw out, I would really discuss around Gen 8, besides power, significant power reduction and cost savings, it's really the ability to reclaim what we've estimated about 30 days of productivity. That you can focus on net new projects as opposed to how do I fix this server. And again, Tim will talk about this in much greater detail. We're very excited about what we're doing with Gen 8. The second thing we've done with our business critical server, or BCS, or systems, we announced that we're actually hardening Linux and Windows on an x86 environment. So if you're a BCS customer, you can now deploy Linux and Windows in that same environment. And we've brought the hardened aspect to it from a mission critical perspective. And finally, we have what's called Project Moonshot. So for the web scale-out applications, I need to do this very low cost. Think about what's revolutionized phones and tablets. It's ARM and Atom processors. Right? I've been able to significantly reduce power consumption and increase performance. And I've been able to do it in a form factor that's significantly smaller. So now imagine taking that same type of approach to the server. We've done that in Project Moonshot. So we'll introduce servers based on ARM and Atom that will actually reduce your energy by 96% and your footprint by 85%. So think about that. Hardware does matter. It's not just a commodity. A lot of the stuff we've done here has been pretty revolutionary and really set the agenda in the marketplace where others are catching up. One out of every 2 blades shipped in the world is shipped by HP. Right? We look at it's very important for us to continue setting the stage in the marketplace, leading the market not waiting to follow. The second key building block, very, very important building block, is 3PAR. Now, I probably had a little bit of unfair insight, but when I created that service provider, I used 3PAR initially, or right at the outset. And why? 3PAR was designed at the outset for service providers. Now, you may ask, well, I'm not a service provider. I would argue that every one of you, from a customer standpoint, needs to become a service provider. You need to look at efficiency and fast provisioning, and thin provisioning. Right? You need to look at multi-tenancy. You need to look at the efficiency gains that you can drive today, as opposed to keep buying more and more gear from EMC and getting 10% utilization. Right? You really need just-in-time storage for your application. 3PAR really sets the stage, or sets the agenda in the marketplace. From my perspective, of really driving, again, a very strong cloud foundation from a storage perspective, while saving you cost. In fact, we'll go in and guarantee that we'll save you 50% through our event provisioning techniques. So the final key building block I want to talk about is just networking. We've made a significant investment. There are only 2 vendors in the world that have double-digit market share. HP is one of those. So we have brought a full portfolio to bear, and we've made it such that you can manage this full portfolio through one single interface, and you can actually manage all of Cisco's infrastructure. So we look at our networking portfolio as being extremely competitive in the market, and brought together in our converged infrastructure, it really sets the stage for becoming a very strong foundation for the cloud. And as this Gartner note says, north of 30% of all kind of infrastructure will be converged. Who's leading this agenda? Right? This is something that HP began doing a few years back, and now others have just started catching up. IBM just made the announcement a week ago. Right? We're really leading the stage here. Again, what I want to get across is, rather than setting back, we're pushing this agenda forward. We look at these fundamental building blocks, again, foundational elements for the cloud. One of the key kind of manifestations of this converged infrastructure is what we call virtual system. So if you're still on that virtualization journey, or that pathway, you want to virtualize your infrastructure. How do you do it from a high performance, single management, low cost perspective? Virt system is that answer. Right? You're doing VDI projects, right? Just virtualizing your x86. Great platform to look at. Right? Works hand in hand with VMware. Works hand in hand with Microsoft as well. So now we talk a little bit about, again, if you don't want to necessarily just use the building blocks, you want to move to more of an accelerated fashion. We have a product called Cloud System that I talked about earlier. Cloud System truly is that turnkey out of the box, or turnkey private cloud. Right? How do I buy it? As a cloud stack and install it inside my 4 walls. Get you up and running around infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. Right? Let me just highlight some key kind of differentiations around cloud systems. Number 1, it provides that converged infrastructure, that highly optimized cloud infrastructure. Right? Storage, network, compute. Number 2, it's open. Multi-hypervisor, multi-OS, multi-network, multi-storage. So even though we can include storage, we can also integrate into EMC. We can integrate into Cisco. You will not find that from our brethren as an example that use something called a V with a block and a number 1, 0, or 2, right? You get what you get. Remember what I talked about before about open standards? Very important when you're building your cloud to think about openness. I'll make this argument right now. No single vendor should be your sole provider from a cloud standpoint. Right? Again, you don't want that Hotel California problem. So it provides the open framework. Third, it provides the provisioning, the ability to actually describe a service. So this, again, can be a developer service. for infrastructure, or it can be a software service. We then make that available through a self-service user portal. So very strong on the provisioning and the management and the full life cycle of not only infrastructure, but the application. And I would highlight one thing here. It is about the application, right? You run applications on infrastructure, not the other way around. So when you think about a cloud, don't just think about it, can I provision storage and network and compute? That's good. Everyone should do that. How do I provision my databases? How do I provision my applications? And once they're done using that, how do I bring it back? How do I reclaim it? How do I monitor it? How do I make sure it's meeting the SLAs? This is what cloud system does. It brings that entire software and hardware portfolio together. And the final thing I'll just note here, very unique concept called cloud maps. So how do if I'm an Exchange user, how do I deploy Exchange in a matter of minutes in this cloud environment? As opposed to hiring a bunch of army of professional services people from Microsoft, bring them in and deploy it. Right? Cloud maps are automated templates. And for the technical folks in the room, it's actually represented as an application object in the services catalog. Simply click on it and it'll play that application. We do that for applications from Microsoft and SAP and Oracle and others. We also do that at the database layer, and we do that at the hypervisor layer. So cloud apps are a very unique concept in the market, and something I really think you'll see a very strong benefit. And the final thing I'll note here, for the first time, we're actually enabling bursting. Right? So out of the box, we can burst to Savvis today. We're adding many more cloud service providers into the mix. So if you need excess capacity, or you want to begin moving workloads into other service providers, including Amazon, you can do that out of the box. So what makes this entire stack work? What's the glue? It is our software and it's our management and security layer. As I said, we made significant investments in the what's called the orchestration or the provisioning and the orchestration layer. And this really becomes the brains for how you drive the cloud. Right? At the end of the day, I want to be a self-service user. I want to go to a portal, access my services. Those services are defined by IT. And from an IT standpoint, I put a service level agreement around that. And from there, it then dictates where that application will execute. This is the brains that makes that happen. Now I need to also make it secure. So we bought ArcSight, bought Fortify, Tipping Point. So I need to look at threats that are being built inside of cloud services or applications. So I can do that in runtime. Actually, from developing the code, I can look at events that are occurring across a number of logs, and do correlation to see if there's actually threats to the system. And I can do intruder protection. Right, so it's very important to look at security from a multifaceted standpoint I talked about earlier. And we've really built a very strong portfolio that helps you drive the security aspects of cloud. So we, from an HP standpoint, again, not only look at it from an openness perspective, but also we leverage our partners. We work with our partners across the, I run Americas. So we looked at, we work with our partners to establish what we call cloud centers of excellence, where they're eating our dog food and they're showing these clouds in real time, working in their environment, right? So we've now deployed over 1,000 private clouds. A lot of work here, right? Pretty mature technology. This is the showcase today that they're driving. So let me just close with why HP. Again, as I highlighted before, we do look at hybrid cloud computing as being front and center in your cloud strategy. We believe it's important to drive a full portfolio from private cloud to managed cloud to a public cloud, and be able to provide that orchestration, that common orchestration layer that says, listen, I need to worry about my application. So whether it executes on our HP public cloud or Amazon cloud or our hosted cloud or our private cloud, it shouldn't matter. We want to provide that common orchestration layer that enables you to now focus on business, close that gap between business and IT. And again, as I like to say, really become the heroes of the environment. You know, by the way, we do have a fair number of customers today that I noted using this today. So we have a lot of excitement, a lot of fun happening at HP. As Bob noted, we got some challenges last year. We really are on a pretty significant accelerated slope. Very excited about what Meg's doing. Very excited about the products we brought to market. And we're very excited to work with you.